Okay, now what kind of shape was the band when they got there? They'd been doing some drugs and stuff before they got there. So what kind of shape were they in when they got there?
Went a lot with them, yeah. What kind of shape were they in? They were, I don't know, 5'8", 5'9", not too heavy.
How healthy were they?
Well, they all could walk. At times.
They could stay up late.
They could stay up late. Hell, they were also going to be okay. I mean, there's a,
it wasn't unusual for a band of that stature to be somewhat inebriated. These are the 70s, Woodstock, and on and on. It really wasn't an unusual session in terms of drug use or drug paraphernalia I guess in more than moderation.
No. And there wasn't a lot of open use of it either.
Yeah, there was that pretty much was behind closed doors for whatever reason.
I think Tom kept it in check with that.
Yeah, I think that's Tom was right.
He wouldn't put up with it.
Yeah, we'll give a big nod of credit to Tom at keeping the drug usage to what would be considered a minimum for them.
For them.
Yeah. Moving on.
Moving on. Okay, so the individual players. Wanted to talk a little bit about each of the guys and what it was like to work with them. Let's start with Carl Radel. Now, you'd worked with him before with the Delaney and Bonnie sessions and stuff, so you knew a little bit about how to work with him. But what was he like as a person and as a player?
Yeah, and very easy to work with. They were real talented people. Obviously, professionals, and we were also. So, we got along just fine with everybody, really. I don't think there were any.
Carl's bass playing, I think, is a big part of that record. Probably goes a little bit unnoticed in many ways because of the greatness of Eric Clapton and Duane Allman. But Carl was a very, what we call, melodic bass player. He played a lot of melodic bass lines that had structure, and it's very listenable. It's not just downbeat driven, rock and roll. It's very musical and very melodic. Carl was a fabulous bass player, and he was very low key. Carl was not a hot-headed, loudmouth guy. He was very reserved in that sense. He's just, I think, where is he from? Is it Oklahoma, maybe?
I think that neck of the woods, that area of the country, yeah.
Woods. So, sort of almost with a country attitude, kind of low key, not a big city loudmouth kind of guy, and he made it very, very easy to work with. And he was between him and Jim Gordon, they were the rock of the band. I mean, they just held it all together. They had been playing together for a long time too, together, as you know.
And Jim Gordon was another story, though.
No. We never had any problem with Jim either. He was also, we got along fine with Jim. He was fine. He showed up when he was supposed to be there and did his parts. And
he's just an amazing drummer.
And was, got great sounds. You didn't have to tell him how to tune his drums, which was unusual at the time.
Yeah, he had his drums tuned perfectly. Jim Gordon, Russ Kunkel, the drummers of that era, all fabulous guys and, with great ability. Jim Gordon actually also, the coda part of Layla, the instrumental piano section after the body of the song was originally played by Jim Gordon, and we overdubbed the band to the piano part. That was a very technically complex piece of music to make because the body of the song was recorded in one piece, and then we created this piano interlude that actually Jim Gordon wasn't part of the song. Jim was playing the piano kind of during,
he was just doodling around.
And Tom kind of thought that would be a really cool thing to somehow include. And the piano part became now the center section, and the band played the end section on top of that. So it was a very complex piece of music to record and to put together
in that day
with the technology that was at hand. But it was a really cool thing. And then you know, the next player of excellence in that band would be Bobby Whitlock, and Bobby came back and actually replayed that coda section and did a lot of the piano overdubs in that section and made it just come alive, because the piano playing, it's such a moving and important part of the record that actually wasn't written as part of the song. It's a very unique and special thing that happened because, you know, again, we're talking about Eric and Dwayne being, you know, magical together. Well, when Bobby started playing this piano part and it all came together really well, it was just magnificent. It's amazing. You know, also speaking of that, one of the most moving pieces of music on the double album is the last song on side 4, Little Wing. It amazes me over the years how many people have
actually, the last song on side 4 is Thorn Tree in the Garden.
Oh, you must have changed it.
Yeah, I don't mean Little Wing. I mean Thorn Tree in the Garden. Thank you for correcting me.
You know, we interject one thing. You know, when you make an album, we look at it once and move on. This was how many years ago?
4 or 5.
40 plus.
Thorn Tree in the Garden is what I was alluding to. Thank you. But the reality is that the story I was trying to emulate was that so many people assume that that's Eric Clapton singing, and it's actually Bobby Whitlock, one of the great rock and roll singers of our time. He really was underrated, I thought, in a lot of ways, because he was such a key part of the Delaney and Bonnie record as well. Bobby Whitlock's a phenomenal singer, as well as a great keyboard player.
Now, actually, since we were speaking about Layla and the coda, Bobby in his book is of the opinion that the coda was superfluous, that it was unnecessary, and the song would stand alone without it and should have been done without it.
Everybody has an opinion.
Yep.
Well, you know, that's an interesting thing, because originally when the record came out as a single, in those days, singles, quote unquote, were 3 minutes or less, as you know. And Layla was out as a single without the coda part, and really didn't have of notoriety initially, because it was released intentionally with the idea of Eric not being Eric Clapton and these guys. It was, you know, it was Derek and the Dominos. And in my opinion, it wasn't until rock radio, what we used to call AOR radio, album-oriented radio, when AOR radio started playing the album version, which is how long? Is it 6 minutes?
7 and some change, I think.
7 and change, better yet. When they started playing the album version of 7 minutes and change, that revolutionized, in my opinion, album-oriented radio, because that record had such an incredible impact on album-oriented radio. And I think Layla then became this hugely worldwide success because it had all those ingredients. It wasn't just a love song that was 3 minutes long. And the coda is some of the finest playing you'll ever hear. I mean, it's an instrumental section that is actually twice. It's the piano section and then the band at the end, which is instrumental as well. That's a very, very...
But with that said, the remake that Eric did without all that on the Unplugged record did great without all that stuff. So
yeah, that's true. I mean, that's a whole different version, but, you know, also a fantastic version, as I would say.
Yeah, and won a Grammy also.
Yeah, well, first time I heard it, I thought it was brilliant.
Yeah, I did too.
Now, let's go back to one of the other tracks on the album. In fact, it was the third track. It's the third track on the album, and as you told me before, Ron, the first 3 tracks on the album are actually the first 3 that were recorded in that sequence. And the third one is Keep On Growing. And yes, there are just loads of guitar overdubs on that. It sounds like Eric is playing about 15 guitars. It was one
too.
And he was. Can you recall recording that track and any special notes about recording that?
Yeah, he recorded one guitar at a time. He played one part. He played each guitar separate. Each guitar part he played separately.
That's all we can remember from that.
And it just kept growing.
It kept growing, right.
We watered it, and it grew, and it grew, and it grew. You know, so much of that stuff, it's you know, again, it's not really planned out. Those parts and all those guitar pieces, we would overdub one day, and then maybe 3 days later go back and revisit
do another one, and then we say, put them all up at once.
Push them all up.
Yeah, that sounds pretty good. Let's use them all. And that's exactly how that happened.
You know, a lot of people want to think that there's all this, you know, dreamed up parts and planned out session playing. You know, it's not that way. It's just not done that way. It's just, let's get lucky, and the old expression, shoot and holler shit.
Just keep the tape rolling.
That's right.
Well, you know, that we have a story about that.